She walked in like anyone else, head held high, a soft smile on her face and excitement in her step. It was a sunny afternoon, and all she wanted was to pick out a gift. Dressed in a sleek blazer, jeans, and clean sneakers, she didn't look like someone trying to cause trouble. But the moment she stepped through the doors of that high-end boutique, the energy shifted. The sales associates glanced at each other. One whispered something to another, and within minutes she was being followed, watched, judged. Then came the words she never expected to hear in 2025, "Ma'am, you need to leave." She didn't argue, she didn't yell. She simply turned around and walked out of the luxury store, her heart pounding, not from shame, but from something deeper, something that would soon shake that boutique to its core. What no one inside that store knew was who she really was, and more importantly, who she was married to. The next morning, that very same store didn't open. The lights stayed off, the doors were locked, and by noon, rumors were swirling. Something big had happened. Something tied to that quiet woman from the day before. This isn't just a story about being treated unfairly. It's a story about power, pride, and what happens when people judge too quickly. It's about a woman who kept her grace, and a man who wouldn't let her be disrespected. So what exactly happened after she walked out? And how did her billionaire husband shut the entire store down in less than 24 hours? Let's go back to the beginning and uncover how one moment of disrespect turned into a lesson no one in that store will ever forget. Her name is Maya. A former school teacher turned community leader, known in her neighborhood for being warm, grounded, and always willing to help someone in need. She didn't care for flashy things or the spotlight. But on that day, she wanted to do something special. Her sister had just beaten cancer, and Maya wanted to surprise her with something beautiful. That's why she walked into that boutique. She wasn't there to show off or make a statement. She was just a proud black woman trying to celebrate something good. But that store didn't see her joy. They didn't see her story. They only saw what they thought she was. The woman who followed her around had that look, the kind that says, "You don't belong here." And when Maya finally asked for help, she was met with silence, then suspicion. When they told her to leave, they said it was policy, that she looked out of place. No explanation, no apology, just cold stares and an open door. What they didn't know was that Maya's husband, Daniel, wasn't just any man. He was the quiet type, rarely seen in magazines, never one to flaunt his wealth. But he was one of the youngest self-made billionaires in the tech world. He built an empire from scratch, starting with a laptop and a rented office. And if there was one thing Daniel never tolerated, it was disrespect, especially toward his wife. When Maya got home and told him what happened, she didn't ask him to do anything. She just needed to talk. But something in him shifted. He listened, nodded, and quietly walked out of the room. By sunrise, something was already in motion. Phone calls, meetings, silent moves being made behind the scenes. What happened next would change everything. That morning, the store manager arrived to a sight she'd never seen before. A sleek black SUV was parked outside, engine off but still warm. Two men in tailored suits stood near the entrance, not saying much, just watching. She tried to unlock the door, but her keycard didn't work. Confused, she pulled out her phone, only to see an email marked *urgent*. L store operations paused until further notice. Details to follow. Inside the boutique, lights flickered on automatically as the security team arrived, but not the usual one. These men weren't hired by the store. They were private, discreet, professional, and they weren't there to shop. Across town, Maya sat at her kitchen table, sipping tea. She didn't know what her husband had planned. Daniel was calm, but focused. The kind of calm that only came before a storm. She didn't ask questions. She trusted him. But a part of her worried. Not about the store, but about how far he might go to protect her. She knew his world, high-level boardrooms, billion-dollar deals, powerful connections. Once Daniel set his mind on something, it didn't just happen. It changed things. Meanwhile, inside the boutique's corporate office, a different conversation was unfolding. Executives were scrambling to figure out what had gone wrong. Legal teams were called in. Someone finally looked at the store's security footage. There she was, Maya, walking calmly through the store, smiling, polite. And there was the employee, blocking her path, whispering into her earpiece. The footage didn't lie. Then came the call. No caller ID, just a calm voice on the line. "This is about what happened yesterday. I'd like to meet. Today." By the time word reached the CEO, the pressure had already started. Online whispers, silent investors pulling out, media eyes circling without saying a word. Something big was coming, and they all felt it. By midday, the story was no longer a secret. A small tweet from a fashion blogger had gone viral. Rumor has it a luxury store in the city just got shut down overnight. Something to do with how they treated a black woman yesterday. People started talking, sharing, digging. Hashtags appeared. Discussions sparked across social media about discrimination, respect, and how often black women are treated as if they don't belong in certain spaces, no matter how successful or kind they are. At the same time, Daniel was moving quietly but deliberately. He never raised his voice, never made a public statement. He didn't need to. A call to one of the boutique's major investors, then another to the real estate group that owned the building. Quiet pressure. Strategic timing. No threats, just facts. Numbers. Influence. Power used like a scalpel, not a hammer. Maya, meanwhile, started receiving messages. Friends, neighbors, even people she didn't know, reached out. Some shared similar stories. One woman said she'd been followed in that same store months earlier. Another said she used to work there but left because of how certain customers were treated differently. Maya hadn't asked for any of this attention, but now she was at the center of something much bigger. Back at the boutique's headquarters, panic had set in. Meetings were held behind closed doors. The head of PR drafted a statement but was told to wait. The employee who had followed Maya was suddenly unreachable. And the CEO, normally cool under pressure, paced in his office, holding a list of high-level cancellations. Something was unraveling fast. Then came the official notice. An emergency board meeting was scheduled for that evening. The store's fate and reputation now hung in the balance. And as the sun dipped below the skyline, no one knew what was coming next, except Daniel. As the emergency board meeting began, tension filled the sleek glass conference room. Faces were tight, words chosen carefully. But just when they thought things couldn't get worse, someone slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, screenshots of internal messages from employees at the boutique, group chats, Slack conversations, casual, careless remarks, some mocking Maya, others joking about watching certain customers extra close. It wasn't just one bad moment, it was a pattern, a culture, and now it was documented. No one in that room spoke for a moment. The CEO leaned back, rubbing his temples. Investors shifted uncomfortably. One executive quietly pushed their chair back and walked out. The situation had shifted from PR crisis to legal risk, and Daniel hadn't even spoken publicly yet. Back at home, Maya sat on the edge of the bed, holding her phone. She hadn't told Daniel yet, but a journalist had reached out to her directly, not for gossip, but to listen. The story was spreading fast now, not because of outrage alone, but because people were connecting with it. Her calmness, her dignity, the way she hadn't shouted or tried to go viral. She just wanted to be treated like anyone else. But Daniel wasn't finished. He had just gotten off a call, not with a lawyer, not with a reporter, but with a woman named Grace Holloway, the co-founder of a rising luxury brand focused on ethical fashion and diversity. What he proposed to her wasn't just business. It was something bold, something that would strike at the heart of everything that store thought it stood for. Meanwhile, at the boutique, more employees began coming forward. quietly, anonymously, sharing stories, screenshots, testimonies, and with every new detail, the walls closed in a little tighter. The store had tried to push someone out, but now the world was watching who would walk in and take their place. By the next morning, the luxury store's doors were officially closed, not temporarily but permanently. A formal statement was released. Due to internal investigations and a shift in leadership, we have decided to cease operations effective immediately. The words were cold, but the message was loud. The fallout had reached too deep to cover up. Investors had pulled out, key staff had resigned, and public trust had vanished overnight. But that wasn't the end. 2 weeks later, in the same upscale shopping district, a grand opening banner was draped across the storefront that once denied Maya entry. The space had been completely transformed, bright, open, full of color and warmth. The new boutique. Elia and Grace a luxury fashion house co-owned by Grace Holloway and a silent partner, Daniel. The brand was rooted in inclusion, authenticity, and empowerment. No pretenses, no silent judgments, just a space where everyone was welcome. Maya stood near the entrance on opening day, wearing a soft cream jumpsuit from the new collection. Her presence wasn't loud or flashy, just steady, grounded. Customers came in curious, left inspired. Cameras flashed. Interviews followed. And though she hadn't asked for any spotlight, her story had become something bigger than one bad moment. It had become a movement. But just as things seemed settled, the twist came. An anonymous tip was leaked to a major news outlet. It revealed that the original boutique had been under investigation months before Maya's visit, for quietly profiling customers based on race and income. Maya's incident had only brought the truth to the surface. She hadn't just been mistreated, she had unknowingly walked into the center of a long-hidden scandal. And in the end, by simply standing tall and speaking her truth, she didn't just close a door, she opened a new one, not just for herself, but for so many others. The story didn't end with revenge. It ended with renewal. Maya never planned to become a symbol or spark change. She just wanted fairness. But through her grace, a conversation was started, one that reached far beyond a single boutique. People began sharing their own stories, and for once, the world seemed to actually listen. Articles were written, podcasts picked up the story, and even fashion insiders began rethinking how luxury should look and feel. Daniel never said much publicly. He never had to. His quiet actions had spoken louder than any headline. And for Maya, what mattered most wasn't the store closing or the headlines that followed. It was seeing people of all backgrounds walk into Elia and Grace and feel seen, respected, and welcomed. That was the real win. Former employees from the old boutique reached out too. Some apologized. Others asked to work with the new brand. Maya treated them with the same dignity she'd always shown. She believed in second chances. But this time, the rules were different. The culture was different. Respect wasn't just expected, it was the foundation. The scandal that once threatened to quietly disappear under red tape and denial had now become a case study in corporate training seminars. The boutique that judged a woman by her appearance was replaced by a brand that valued people for who they truly are. And the woman who had once been told she didn't belong now owned the key to the door. Maya's story reminds us that sometimes power doesn't shout, it walks quietly with purpose. That real luxury is feeling like you matter. And that standing up, even silently, can echo louder than we ever expect. In the end, Maya didn't just change a store, she changed the standard. And that's a legacy no one can shut down.